All right, we're gonna officially get started. I have to talk into this mic and sound really official for the sake of the video. But as many of you know, I don't need this for my voice to project. So just bear with me. So welcome everybody to our second e-talk of the day. It's day 2 of our e-talk speaker series. I'm sure all of you have attended a talk at some point, or most of you have. But we are lucky to have Abe Kasbo joining us today for this session, and I'm going to go through his bio in a little bit. So before we do that, a couple quick things. This is going to be a fireside chat, so we're going to be engaged in some conversation. It's going to be very dynamic. I'm hoping that you all have some questions and some curiosities about the things that we talk about, and you don't have to wait until the end to jump into Q&A. We can make this very conversational. If you have questions as we're going, just throw a hand up, and we're going to sort of let the conversation take its own shape. If that works for you?
That works for me.
Amazing, awesome. So I'm going to read your fantastic bio, and then we're going to get into it. Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, so Abe Kasbo is the founder and CEO of Verasoni, a marketing communications advisory, consultancy, and agency. The firm delivers integrated marketing communication strategies across channels to Fortune 500 middle market and startup clients in the US and around the world. Abe serves as an advisor to C-suite executives on communications, branding, and PR strategies, and he is the past chair and member of the board of advisors for the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation Studies at Seton Hall University.
Go Pirates.
And is the recipient of the 2023 Shills Entrepreneurship Fund Excellence in Industry Award. Abe has been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, Institutional Investor, Fox Business, PBS, Bankrate, and a bunch of other amazing publications and online channels, as well as international media outlets in Europe and the Middle East. Abe is also the founder of Zaytoon Filmworks. I got that right. Yes, excellent. And the producer and director of the groundbreaking PBS documentary, The Arab Americans, which tells a uniquely American story spanning 150 years of those who immigrated from the Levant, North Africa, and the Arabian Peninsula, and their experience and impact on the American fabric. Interested in learning more about that. He was also inducted into the Seton Hall University Entrepreneur Hall of Fame in 2018, and is also the founder of OnlyOneToothbrush.com, a philanthropic effort aimed to bring 200,000 toothbrushes to support the oral health of Syrian refugees in Germany, Canada, and the US. He's also the chair of the Awareness Foundation of America, which supports the London-based Awareness Foundation and serves as a board of Phi Alpha Theta Law Fraternity, and holds a master's degree in public administration with a concentration in healthcare policy and management, and a Bachelor of the Arts in political science and international relations from Seton Hall. So a lot of stuff to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. How are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for, by the way, thank you, and thank you for having me here. It's an honor.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. So I think let's start sort of at the top and work our way down. So tell us a little bit about Verasoni, and we'll get into sort of the backstory information of that and sort of work backwards.
Sure. So we're not a large firm. We're a small firm, but we do some, in my opinion, some very interesting things. One, we help our clients cut through the hype because there's a lot of BS in the marketing business. The BSers will tell you it's not BS, but we know where the BSers are. Right, and so, and I think that's why we're trusted by clients. The length of stay of our clients with us is about 8 years. The length of stay in the industry is about 2. Right, I want some of our clients to leave. I'm like, please leave. And I'm not saying that we don't make mistakes. My goodness, we make a lot of mistakes. But I founded Verasoni to solve my own problems when I was on the corporate side, and when I was an entrepreneur, and I still am an entrepreneur. And the problem is that marketing firms, at the time, would turn out to be advertising firms. Now marketing firms are social media firms, right? But marketing is a psychological device. It is a tool. It is not a channel play, in my opinion. Channels are tools. And that's very, people like things, they like simplicity. I'm interested in efficacy, and if complexity gets us to efficacy, I'm cool, I'm down with that. And so we help our clients basically solve business problems through marketing, and that's it.
Outstanding. So when a client comes to you and is interested in working with you, what does that sort of onboarding process look like, given all the things we just talked about, differentiating from other marketing firms? What does that look like, sort of forming that initial relationship with a client?
I want to be, in whether it's a small project or a large project, I want to position ourselves as the internal marketing resource, consulting VP of marketing, chief marketing officer of that client. Because if you don't, then it's a transactional relationship. And trust is a big deal. I think it's a big deal in anything that you do, right? You know, maybe some of you guys are athletes here, your teammates have to trust you. You have to trust your teammates. Same thing goes into business. So, and again, we make a lot of mistakes, but our clients trust us enough to, when we turn the ball over, we get back on defense, we get the ball and we go. And you'll find me using a lot of basketball stuff because I used to coach college basketball. So, and a lot of that is in my new book, Irresponsibly Digital. So, anyway.
Which I have a bunch of questions about.
Yeah,
we'll definitely
we'll
get to.
talk about that. That was a really cheesy plug, but you know, as a first-time author, I got to do it. Plus, I have like twins in college, so please, if you can, spend the money on Amazon or wherever.
So, you know, you mentioned you're a small firm. What does your team look like?
So, our team is all women, and our chief operating officer is the reason, in my opinion, that our company hums. And everything flows down from Rebecca's leadership. And I tell people I work for Rebecca. I have no organizational skills. I will tell you that. From a leadership perspective, Rebecca's leadership down to everybody else, and I don't want to say down to because we're a flat organization. We really don't have any titles. We work together. We had an office for about 17 years, and we've been virtual for the past 3. But we're on Slack, and we get together every once in a while, and we especially if we're onboarding the client, we've got to be face to face, because it is much easier to say that idea sucks when you're looking at somebody in the face as opposed to typing it, right? Because it's a different dynamic. Or that's a great idea, or we should do this. So the face-to-face stuff to me is really, really important. But again, we've got great leadership from Rebecca to Leslie, and Leslie started with us as an intern about 8 years ago. She now runs our programming operation. So anything that we do, whether it's complicated or not on the web, goes through Leslie.
I love hearing those kinds of stories where someone joins at the bottom and becomes an integral part of the team. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely awesome. So one of the things I'm curious about is, as a small team, your bio lists that you work with everything from Fortune 500 to startup clients. And in the entrepreneurial world, especially early on, it's kind of hard to be everything to everyone. So how did you kind of build your operation to be able to serve these sort of 3 very different sized clients with different sets of needs?
So I built it based on what I thought my needs would be.
Okay.
And so when I went to start the company, I said, what problems do CMOs have? And I started the firm in 2005, and it was sort of like at the nexus. It was a year before Facebook was born, probably around the year where YouTube was born and Google, right? And I was fortunate enough early on to try to figure out, this is going to be a problem for businesses. It's an opportunity for sure, right? It's absolutely an opportunity, and the web and the digital world has created all kinds of really cool things, including people who were anonymous and now they're famous and making millions and millions of dollars. At the same time, early on, I recognized that businesses were going to waste billions upon billions of dollars chasing this crap. And I'm telling you, let me give you a story. And it's in the book, and if it's not in the book, you can Google it right now. So, a couple years ago, the chief marketing officer at Uber, right? Uber is do they have stores? There's no Uber store, right? Uber is a digital company. And the chief marketing officer at Uber is supposed to actually be a digital genius, marketing genius, right? Okay, now I'm not picking on this guy because this happens to everybody, including myself. So there needs to be a bit of humility when we talk about marketing that is not in this space, because everybody's a marketing expert, okay? He went to the board and he said, I just want to tell you, of the $150 million that we have for marketing, I lost $100 million of it on digital advertising. Now, that itself is an issue, right? Bigger issue is when he was asked why how, he said, I don't know. If that is the case, what do you think I know about digital marketing? No, I'm serious, right? Like, what do you think I know about it, right? Or what do you think these, big marketing companies, and I don't want to name names, and all of these, quote-unquote marketing influencers know about it, right? There are billions upon billions of dollars from digital companies who don't know how to do digital marketing, being completely wasted. It's just irresponsible, and that's why I call the book Irresponsibly Digital. And there's a bunch of cases like that in this book.
So let's use that as a segue to talk a little bit about the book, because I think it's important that especially these folks learn about this. So can you give us sort of like the 30-second overview about what you talk about in the book?
So, and I want to say this with all due respect. I can't do a 30-second about anything. And I don't know why, and I think it's because we have to take time. I think that the construct of these, sort of talking points, I think has become problematic because our collective attention spans have gone to shit. And that's a problem, right? And because I always get just give me a quick thing. I work with somebody in New Jersey, and he always wants like the quick thing. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you the quick thing, but I don't know if I can do it. So it's my fault, I think.
Well, let's make it 5 minutes then.
Yeah, no, I don't want to make it 5 minutes, but I don't know how to do it in 30 seconds. What this thing does is it brings to light some of the things that I think I talked about, digital fraud. It also brings marketing back, in my opinion, that like, I'm marketing to you. You're a human being. You could be on Facebook, you could be on whatever, but the connection that I have to make with you is not clicks. It is not me dancing on a TikTok. And sometimes it is, right? But that's not the entire thing. And so if we're looking at the marketing enterprise, whether you're a venture-backed startup, or whether you are the CMO of a Fortune 5 company, these are all about human relationships. How do we get to that human relationship? Because marketing is about influence, right? I'll give you a quick story. I coached at Centenary College a long time ago, and we weren't. I mean, my record was terrible, but we did two things, right? I convinced my players that if we were going to suck on offense, we weren't going to suck on defense. Okay, and so I had to sell that, right? I literally had to sell it like every day, every practice, right? But by the end of the year, we were second in the nation in defensive field goal against. Now, our record was like, 5-16 or whatever, right? But man, when we walked to the gym, people were like, I don't want to play against those guys. And so, okay, if we were going to do X, Y, and Z, let's pick something that's going to be our brand. And that was our brand. We walked to the gym, people were like, yeah, we could beat these guys, right? But man, it is not going to be easy. Right? And there is something about branding that we all need to sort of understand. Right now, people are like, oh, can you build a branding program? Well, that's not the right way to look at it. Because branding is a result of what you do over time. You have a brand as a professor, right?
I would like to hope so.
Okay, so can we talk about that?
Sure.
How long did it take for you to build that brand?
I've been teaching here for 5 years, so 5 years.
Right, and did you have that brand in year one?
No. Absolutely not.
Exactly.
And I'm sure the way my students viewed me in year 1 versus year 3 versus now has changed.
Right. And your brand is a result of how your students feel about you. and what you do for your students and how you treat them and you know, the kinds of skills that you transfer to them, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing American Express does, right? American Express is the same thing. They treat you well, right? There's, you know, when you get something from American Express in the mail, it's like opening a wedding invitation. You know, you get something from your local bank, and I understand it's all budget. It might look like Uncle Jimmy did it in the backyard, right? And you throw that out. But if you get something from Amex, like you almost feel like you have to use it or open it. You know, just an example that, you know, kind of where the digital world sort of has taken us to this transactional thing. But if you want to build a long-lasting business, if you want to build your personal brand, your relationships are everything. Trust is everything.
So digging a little deeper into this, like, you know, we have a lot of aspiring and existing entrepreneurs here, right? Side hustles, successful businesses, all that kind of thing. And in our classes, we always joke that, you know, if you want to make $1 million using pay-per-click social media ads, you have to pay $2 million or 4 times that, right? And so, like, our students always default to marketing themselves and building their brand through social media, and in some cases, that's not the best choice. So what advice do you have for students who are aspiring or new entrepreneurs with very little resources to start building a brand the proper way, as according to your book?
So I think you should use all those channels, but I think it's like a mutual fund, right? So if you're a really good mutual fund manager, you figure out where to invest your time and money. And it's the same thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do digital media. Of course you should do digital media. You should try to figure out where your audiences are. But it is not about posting. It is about your audience. Let me give you a stark statistics. What do you think the engagement rate, if we had 1,000 people on a business Facebook page, what do you think the engagement rate, meaning that, like, I get somebody to respond or do something, on that page, if I were to post organically, what do you think?
I imagine it's pretty low.
How low?
20%?
Anybody? It's 0.03%. Now, I'm a terrible math guy. Like I told you, I have like no project management skills whatsoever. But 0.03% is if you have 1,000 people that are all relevant, and we know how hard it is to get relevant people to follow you on Facebook and your business page, which is even worse, right? That's less than half a person. Why are we telling businesses to do this on Facebook? What is the value of it? Yes, you should be on there. Figure out where your audience is, figure out what your market is, go after it with the kind of resources, and in the beginning, it's not money, it's time. Put your time to talking to people. Put your time into talking to key opinion leaders to have them bring in, you know, a market. I'll give you a real example. We have a company in Michigan. Their CEO came to us about 5 years ago. I want to be on LinkedIn. We're going to get customers on LinkedIn. I said, well, you're not going to get customers on LinkedIn. We're done. He's like, well, how are we going to get customers? I said, well, they're in the B2B space. I said, what we're going to do is we're going to do webinars. Webinars. Yeah, I'm like, we're going to do webinars with much larger companies. We're going to go out to much larger, and he's already got like these relationships, right? I said, we're going to increase their frequency. Like, so you want me to do like 80 webinars a year? And I'm like, well, that's 80 hours a year. Yeah, I do, because they have 35,000 customers, and you have like 6. Okay? Well, we started doing that. They have 400 people following them on LinkedIn, but now they have 114,000 emails that are legit for customers. They are now holding their own webinars, and making money on their own webinars and charging $35. The $35, they get 1,000 people on the webinars, it's $35,000 an hour. Because the webinars are just running. Like, that was not going to be a social media solve, but that's one particular case, right? So, and I always say, like, you know, sometimes you have to do the hard things. That's much harder than, for me, I could have made a lot of money just saying, all right, you know, I could have probably hired some bot farm and wherever, we could have gotten him 14,000 and made him feel really good about himself. But now, his company has a lot of value. The relationships happen to be offline first. Go to conferences, do those things, right?
That FaceTime is indispensable.
Yeah.
I mean, when I had my company, it was the same thing. We paid for ads, we did all that kind of stuff, but I ran a summer camp. It was all going to camp fairs.
Right.
Meeting kids, meeting their parents.
That's right.
And then we maintain that relationship through the digital channels.
That's right. That's exactly right. You have to project, right? So the digital stuff gives you an opportunity to project some of these things. And it's also social proof. Oh, you know, like it's a 5-star Google review. Well, you know, I just did that actually. I got my first review off the book, and I'm like, it's my first Amazon 5-star review. I put the thing on LinkedIn, and you know, I got like 3 likes. Okay, who cares, right? But I'm here because I have the book. I'm here because of a personal relationship with a former professor here, right? I'm not here because you guys found me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
I'm here because of John, right? And because I came last time, then Marisol and the team.
Absolutely. I have a lot of questions about Verasoni, the book, but I do want to talk about a couple of other things
Sure.
and change the subject, if that's okay,
course.
because I'm really, really interested in some of your social entrepreneurial efforts. So let's start with the onlyoneToothbrush.com. Can you tell us a little bit of the backstory of that?
Yeah, if I could just take one step back. So I came here in 1980, I didn't speak a word of English. We came here from Syria. And I want to say that a lot of people helped me along the way, right? And I kind of felt like, I mean, it's only right, like, you know, you come and you have these opportunities, it's only right to give back. And so I've always had that in the back of my head that, like, you know, I need to give back. Right? And how and why and however I'm stretched, it almost doesn't matter to me. If it's right, I will do it. And so, you know, back in 2011, they coined it the Syrian Revolution. We can have a beer off and talk about that because that may or may not be a thing. But but anyway, that was going on, and there was about 1 million refugees that went to Germany, and I'm like, you know, we work with some of the largest dental distributors in the world, and I'm like, I think I can get people to donate some toothbrushes, and then, you know, so I went to the consulate in New York. They're like, yeah, this is a great idea. We'll do it. The German consulate, so partnered with them, and then using social media, right? We went out and we sent a press release and we said, hey, we're collecting toothbrushes. We're going to send them to Germany to help out with this. We had a small office in Montclair, New Jersey. There's a picture of me in the newspaper thing, by the way. I don't know if you're right. Of me sitting on top. We had like 100,000 within 5 days. I didn't even expect it. 100,000 toothbrushes were delivered to my office. I didn't know what to do with them. We were like climbing on top of each, you know, the hills, but we had to put them somewhere because we couldn't put them in the hallway. So then, and again, I wasn't thinking like the steps through because I'm a terrible project manager. I'm like, oh, now we have to get them over there. So we found somebody with a truck. Then we found a warehouse in Clifton, New Jersey to warehouse them. And then we found a shipping company to ship them. And then they get to Germany and they're like, well, they can't come off the port. They can't come off. So we had to get the consulate involved and then the Red Cross, and the Red Cross took them to distribute them. So long story short, that was, you know, that was a sort of a labor of love, and you know, just trying to be helpful where I can.
So I'm curious, how many pre-existing relationships enabled that to happen?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, and again, social media was available, we leveraged it, but I had to pick up the phone and call people, say, hey, you know, can you know, we did some work with Colgate, and Colgate was very generous. They actually sent us like 3 pallets. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with the pallets, right? But that was an email, and then a phone call, and then this and that, and then talking to the consulate was a personal relationship. The personal relationship came from, I don't know how, and I can't remember why, but one of the German consulate people came to my film premiere in New York City, and that's how that relationship worked.
Wow.
So
interesting. It's funny, we talk about, especially in our Intro to Entrepreneurship class, the importance of building a personal ecosystem, like from both a personal and professional, perspective, like surrounding yourself with the right people to enable you to do the things that you want. And oftentimes you don't realize the value of those relationships until something like this opportunity comes around. So I love that, like, thematically we're talking about, even though we're talking about digital platforms, it's really about personal relationships and human connection.
I think that's everything, honestly. And I did a panel a couple days ago at Seton Hall, and somebody asked something interesting about business books and stuff like that. And I would give you guys this advice. I wish I stopped reading business books much earlier, because I think they pretty much say the same thing. And I think that the most interesting thing about all of us is the stuff that happens within each of us. And I didn't get that until like 5 years ago. And I think that 5 years ago I started going on a more personal journey to kind of get to know myself. Like I know a lot of my friends, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy in here? And I think it's made me a better, I don't know about better, right? Because I suck in a lot of areas. But I think it's made me, it just given me a different perspective on how I see things, which has probably made things a little bit easier for how I, my personal approach to things.
Interesting. So with that in mind, do you have a particular book that you recommend our students read that's not a business book to help them discover that?
And it's A Hero of a Thousand Faces with Joseph Campbell. And in fact, you can probably, I don't want to say go on YouTube, but if you want to go on YouTube and check it out, because all of you here, he's really talking about all of us here, right? And the journey that we all take, because the Jesus story could be your story, it could be your story, it could be my story, and he ties all of these sort of world religions together, and he even brings it down to Star Wars, or up to Star Wars, I don't even know if that's the right word, and kind of shows you that you have the power to do anything, right? Like anything you want to do, you can do it. And I think that's what entrepreneurship's about, right? Like, I could do this.
And I think the only one toothbrush is a good example. From the outside, that looks like a crazy, overwhelming task to get that many toothbrushes and to get it to other countries and through customs and all of that. And so, like for me to take that on without having been exposed to the entrepreneurial mindset, I would say, like, there's no way we can make that happen. But you picked up the phone, you called your connections, you figured out what you needed to do, and you got it done. Right?
The best advice I ever got in my life, I use it every day, because I fail every day, right? Every day. Best advice was at grad school at Seton Hall, and my stats professor, Greg Cable, said, I don't know, I was complaining about like getting a job, or maybe I didn't get a job or something, and he was like, dude, chill. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay. He's like, listen, if somebody asks you if you can teach Chinese politics, you say yes, I can teach Chinese politics. And then you freaking go out and learn Chinese politics, and then you teach Chinese politics. You get the job, right? Yeah. I was an 8th grade basketball coach. I got a head coaching job in college. That's really not supposed to happen. I got it. And we did some really cool things, and I coached for 10 years, and the result of it isn't my record, but I have 300 young men here that I still, for over 20 years, I still touch base with right here, and that's what's most important to me, right? Yes, do I still bitch about some of the games that we lost? Absolutely, absolutely. but what's important to me is those relationships, right? My former student assistant just got the job at Centenary College as the AD. And it's like, it's really kind of great to, you know, to go through that with those
that has to be so rewarding.
It's really cool.
So I want to talk about your film.
Yep.
But there is a thought I don't want to lose, so don't let me forget, which is you were mentioning before that you don't consider yourself the most organized person.
Yes.
So don't let me forget about that. I want to talk about your film first, but I want to come back to
You want me to keep that in my head as somebody who's not organized?
the two of us sitting here
I'm gonna
together
need to write that
in
down.
trouble that way, because I'm the same way. So let's talk about the film first. So tell us about your film.
I'll keep it in my notes.
Thank you. So, you know, growing up in Syria, I actually grew up, I tell people I grew up American in Aleppo. People don't understand the power of American movies and propaganda, right? Like, I grew up watching, this is an old show, but like I grew up watching Little House on the Prairie. I don't know if you remember that show.
Sure do.
That show.
Right? I grew up watching Bugs Bunny in Arabic, right? Like, you just imagine Bugs Bunny in Arabic. Like, what? I went to, you know, Superman, right? And so, like, literally, when we came here, I landed here. We enrolled in school a week later. It was September 3rd. We landed at JFK, and we enrolled in school. And then like you hate us. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? You know, like, and I didn't speak English. So I was saying this in Arabic. You know, I'm like, what do you mean you hate us? Like, wait, like, what are you talking about? I'm like, my dad smokes Marlboro, right? Like, there's Cadillacs all over Aleppo. I run around in Lee jeans, and I play cowboys and Indians on the streets of Aleppo. What the hell are you talking about? And I went home to my dad, and I'm like, these people don't know anything. Like, I can't even believe that, like, right? And I thought that would change. I thought that would change, like, over the years. You know, and then 9/11 happened, and I remember sitting, I was the marketing director at St. Joe's Hospital at the time. I remember, you know, sitting there just, and St. Joe's in Patterson had like 600 doctors of, you know, of Arab background. Like, you know, it's a crazy situation. It's like, not that that's a crazy situation, but it was the 9/11 thing was a crazy, because people didn't want to deal with the doctors. They didn't want to deal with the nurses. They didn't want, like, they were just scared. Totally cool. I spent 3 days managing the blood bank without sleep, because, you know, culturally, like, I could help people through this. And then, you know, I went home and we had the kids, and then we were down the shore one day, and I saw something on TV. It was like on Fox News, and it was like, well, imagine if a bomb fell here. And that really pissed me off, because you can't imagine, like journalists shouldn't be like saying, imagine this happened, right? So I remember being very upset, because, you know, now we had the kids. So my wife's like, she's like, well, write a book. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, people don't read. And that was like before Twitter and all this other crap, right? So she's like, well, why don't you make a documentary? And I'm like, look, man, I make like really cool 30-second commercials, like, you know, like we can predict, like, you know, propaganda. I got you, okay? Right? She's like, wait a minute. She's like, wait a minute. She's like, why don't you think of the documentary as a 30-second, 60-minute film? And I'm like, holy moly, that's why I married you. I didn't know, just like I didn't know anything about toothbrushes, and, you know, right? I didn't know anything about documentaries. I didn't know how to make a film. I didn't know how to write a film. Writing for, you know, a 30-second TV commercial and writing a documentary are like not the same thing. It's like speaking Arabic and Chinese. They're totally the same. They're not the same thing. So, so I'm like, all right, where do I start? So I figured I had to learn, right? I had to learn Chinese politics. Chinese politics for me was, I got to learn how to do a documentary. What's the best way to do that? To watch documentaries. Okay, all right, now, I know the production piece. Okay, now I know, but what I didn't realize is how much money you needed to do this. Like, it is an extraordinary amount of money. So I'm like, okay, now I have to go out and fundraise. I did that. And then I had to, while everything was going on, I also had to be, like, I was subjected to, like, why are you doing this? Right? I'm like, well, I'm trying to build a bridge. I'm trying to, because everybody has one of these, right? Like, the Mexican Americans, the Irish Americans, the Jewish Americans, everybody has one. I'm like, well, Arab Americans don't have one. I'm like, why don't we do that? Because what I wanted to do was just build that bridge. And I was tired of explaining myself. And so I wanted to build a solution for me. And then like 4 years into it, I remember going home. I walked in the house crying. I was crying because I couldn't raise money. I was getting the interviews, but like and then my daughter, she was like 6 at the time, and I remember saying to Anna, my wife, I'm done. This is way beyond me. I quit, right? And then Sophia was like pulled on my pants, and she's like, Dad, you always said that Kasbos don't quit. I'm like, now you're listening to me? I'm like, now you listen to me? I'm like, just eat your freaking broccoli. But you don't even do that. So I'm like, okay, that's a sign. You just keep going, right? And so I kept going, and then Jamie Farr, who was the star of MASH, was in my film, and I went out and I interviewed him somewhere in Kentucky or Kansas or something, and he was like, you got to go to Toledo. And I'm like, what's in Toledo? He's like, there's a whole community, and I'm like, I don't have any money, man. Like, I can't go to Toledo. So he's like, no, you got to go to Toledo. So I'm like, okay, credit card time. Go to Toledo. We land in Toledo. We go to this restaurant. There's 90 people in this restaurant. And for the 5-6 years before that, everybody wanted to be helpful. Everybody's like, oh, I could be helpful. And you know what? They turn out not to be helpful. Because I think people are well-intentioned. They want to say they want to be helpful. And I think that's cool. But like, you actually need to do something, and they don't. And as an entrepreneur, you have to know that shit is going to happen to you. Right? And so I was exhausted, and I remember this guy came up to me, and he's like, my sister's a CNN producer, and she's going to help you. And I was rude to him because I was exhausted, right? I was rude to him. His name was Rami. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, and I walked away because I was tired of hearing that. But I caught myself, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, that was wrong. That was a turnover. Let's get back on defense and let's have another conversation. So I walked back to Rami, and I apologized. I'm like, listen, I'm really sorry. Give me your sister's name. I would love to talk to her. I talked to her. You think she was helpful?
No.
I'm going to use the F word. Like, I was so frustrating. She wasn't helpful. I'm like, it's over. I'm done. I'm like, Jamie, this is great. She calls me back like the next day. She's like, I have somebody for you. Here are 2 people that you have to talk to. I'm like, I got to do this again. And let me just stop you here because, stop myself here. Part of being an entrepreneur is the perseverance thing. Like, you cannot take things personally. We're all humans. We're all humans, okay? But you can't take it personally. And you have to persevere. And you have to, it's about the next play. It's about, okay, this didn't work, right? So I'm like, all right, I found the energy to call these people. Well, the first person I called happened to be in Florence. She was out of Chicago, but she was in Florence, Italy. I talked to her, and she's like, I just did the Italian Americans in Chicago. I love this theme. I said, okay, Gia, like, what do we do? She's like, I will write it. I said, you're gonna write this thing? She's like, yeah. So I sent her like 49 hard drives to Florence. She went through them, she wrote it, and then I edited it because, this is a politically charged thing, and I didn't want the politics to get in the way of the message. Literally every single word Like if you watch this film, which is now, I mean, it had a great run on PBS up until last April. You know why? And it's on Vimeo if you want to take a look at it. But every word, it's not a political film, but it is it talks about the depth and breadth of the community and the contributions. So I spent a lot of time with her on that, and then guess what? I didn't know how to get to PBS, but if I didn't meet her, she knew how to get to PBS. She got me in touch with PBS. Right?
All comes back to relationships.
It all comes back to relationships, and it comes back to, yes, was I exhausted? Was I tired? Was I even disappointed in myself? I was so pissed off at myself. Like, I was exhausted, but I felt like I needed to keep going, right? And that's how it happened.
That's amazing. It's an amazing
Yeah.
story. Thanks for sharing that.
No, thank you. And I apologize for taking so long.
No,
to
this is what we need to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, these are amazing stories. So I want to open the floor to questions, but I do want to get back to the question I remembered.
Yes.
And I'm going to try and keep this.
I was going to be like, hey, remember your question?
I appreciate it. I actually remembered, surprisingly enough,
Good
because
job.
I don't have any short-term memory. But, so, I think in this day and age, there is a very toxic archetype of the entrepreneur. I think there's this hyper-productivity, this sort of Silicon Valley-inspired thing, and I think more often than not, entrepreneurs are not comfortable talking about what they're not good at.
Yeah.
I think they feel like with the whole push for personal branding, they feel like they have to always be on, always be selling, always be representing that brand, and I think it takes a lot of guts to like right out of the gate come swinging and say like, I'm not the most disorganized person, and I think more entrepreneurs need to be genuine about that. And so, were you always so like self-aware and embracing your skills and your weaknesses throughout your career? Or did it take like at some point you to realize that that's how you operate and you need to sort of surround yourself with the right people to make, to complement your skills and areas of improvement and make things happen?
I think that's a great question, and I don't know how to answer it because I still struggle with it. One, I think the construct of personal branding is gaslighting everybody here. I think it's a gaslighting thing, right? Because Michael Jordan didn't set out to be a brand. Michael Jordan set out to be a really good basketball player. We just talked about this, right? And then he became a brand because of what he did, right? Steve Jobs didn't set out to be a brand. He set out to be a forward-thinking, somebody who wants to solve some societal problems. That's the brand. But I struggle with that concept because, I too, like early on, I want to read every business book, blah, 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 blah. But like, I don't need to read every business book. I just got to do some stuff. I have to fail. I have to accept that I'm failing, right? Like embrace failure. I think failure is freaking brilliant. I'm trying to sell Seton Hall on an entire course on failure.
Oh, I'll take that course. Can I audit that?
And perseverance. I mean, just come to my house, hang out with me and my kids. I mean, you'll just see failure every day. Right? No. I mean, no. They're great kids. I'm just kidding, guys.
Oh my
I'm just kidding. This is gonna be on YouTube. Oh my god. Yeah, it's all right. They get it. They get it. They get the whole. But what I'm saying is that like, and also too, like, there's what, like 20 people here. There's not 20 people here, right? If everybody has 1,000 people in their network, there's 20,000 people here. Right. It's kind of like a ridiculous thing that we're going to be managing these relationships, right? And I think I mentioned it earlier. We were talking earlier. Mark Zuckerberg, and it's in the book. In fact, I had to rewrite the book. Not rewrite it, but interject this and hold the presses in June, because this is the kind of BS that we are all subjected to. Mark Zuckerberg came out and he said, research says that people have 3 friends. But the market demands 15 friends. So we're going to create AI friends for you. Really? Like, is this where you, like you guys are young enough where you need to kind of get some control over this? Because this is the company that purges 1 billion fake accounts a quarter. Right? And that's what they tell us. Right? Instagram, Facebook, right? They purge. But now they want to create more fake friends so you and I can feel better about the market research that they did. And I don't know who's telling them that the market is 15 friends or he was just making that crap up, right? But it doesn't matter, it's the hype cycle. Watch the hype. I don't care about any hype, right? I don't. I mean, I went back into coaching a couple of years ago. I coached high school girls. And you know, for me, like, sports is a point of reference for all of this. The school didn't win much for a long time. We ended up going to the championship game my first year. Second year, last year, we went 14-5. And somebody asked me, well, what's the difference? Like, is it X's and O's? I'm like, it is not X's and O's, because I'm not the best X's and O's guy in the world. I'm like, one, take no crap from the kids, right? How about that? Like, and two, whenever somebody says to me, like, the girls be like, well, I feel like we need to do this. I'm like, you feel like that? I'm like, no, if I slap you on the knee, you will feel like it. Tell me what you think and tell me what you believe. Cut this I feel stuff out, right? And I think we've gotten to a point where we are being influenced, like to your point before, about this toxic stuff, that like our own humanity is being abdicated somehow. I don't know what it is, but I mean, you know, there's probably just like verbal diarrhea here, but that's really what it is, I think.
And I think these folks need to hear that, because that's what's being pushed through social media algorithms and, like, you know, entrepreneurial influencers and all that. It's not real. It's not real. It's a very toxic archetype of an entrepreneur that doesn't exist. They're regular people and they have strengths and weaknesses.
Totally. And I saw that there was an influencer that everybody here knows. It was up on stage, and he was talking about, I'm telling you, like, if you had any kind of semblance of integrity, you would look at it and you would be like, this is wrong, right? But he was on stage at Cannes, which is a festival of creativity, you know, for marketers and advertisers. And anybody that knew kind of like marketing 101 would look at it, and you would look at it and say, this is ridiculous, right? But you know what? The clip showed, he said it, everybody in the audience was like this, right? Who's in the audience clapping? Like, why are we clapping for idiots? Seriously, why? Like, where are our standards? Have high standards, right? Have high standards in everything you do. Be kind, right? And persevere. I mean, that's really it, I think.
And human connection.
That's
human
it.
connection. It all comes back to human connection and having integrity in your human connection.
That's right.
So, I mean, I wish we had another hour to talk, because I have so many other things I want to ask you about, but I want to open the floor to the students. And if you all have any questions, please.
Oh.
Oh, we have another, oh, you want to use this one? Okay,
I
here,
don't-
take that one. For the sake of the video.
Oh, this is fun. I'm also one of those people with a really loud voice, so bear with me as well. I'm going to raise the question that I raised to you at the beginning with kind of a hypothesis. The name Verasoni. We're coming back to it. So I'm going to ask the question, what does it mean? Where does it come from? Although I really have the hypothesis, what you just said, human connection and integrity, makes me think that that's kind of what it's about. But what is your take on it? What is your name from?
So I you know, before all of this, before we're being recorded, you actually came up with a hypothesis. Why don't you start with that hypothesis, and I will build on it.
There was a couple. The first part, Vera, I broke down to mean truth. I was raised Catholic, and so I prayed sometimes in Latin, so thanks for that. Yay. Sony was interesting because I realized that it has to do with sound. So I was kind of trying to put the words together, truth, and then the word sound. And then I was listening to you talk about kind of, you help companies build their authentic brand. You talked about having integrity and human connection and all of those things. And I was kind of like, it seems, I think I wrote it somewhere in my notes, that it seems like it's just this combination of figuring out the best version of you, sort of, and working with companies for that.
So it is a combination of words, and you're right. The first part is vero, right, which means truth. And when you know, my wife's Italian, And when we were dating and in love, we're still in love.
Aw.
Just kidding, right? That was like our thing, right? Like Vero. And so when I started the business, the kids were 3 months old, and the kids, it's Sophia and Nicholas. So I'm like, how do I get all of this together? And I remember sitting at the dining room table, and I'm like, Vero, Ver, and then means two in Italian, Sophia and Nicholas. Verasoni. It's awesome.
That is so cute. I love it so much.
So you're totally on the right track.
I overcomplicated the ending.
No, but I mean, unless you knew what my kids' names were, right? So.
No, that's
Excellent.
cute. I
Yeah.
love it.
Questions?
Hello. So you mentioned kind of preaching that failure is important in all kind of aspects of life. Can you think of one specific failure that you had with Verasoni and how you kind of used it to turn that around into a positive?
Yeah. So I remember I was friends with this, and I'm still friends with him, with a journalist who used to be the senior finance guy at the Wall Street Journal, right? He's like, when I started the company, again, speaking of relationships, he's like, oh, I want to introduce you to this guy in New York, and I think he could be your client, right? So, he takes me to this high-powered meeting, I go in, and the guy just wouldn't stop. Like, he just kept coming at me, and I felt like I was completely unprepared. Now, I don't think I was unprepared, but and it was probably a personality thing, but I took it really, I literally called my wife on the way downstairs. I'm like, I don't think I could do this. I went downstairs and I cried in my tea. I'm like, this was unbelievable. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, that guy was just a jerk, right? I'm like, I'm gonna see a lot of jerks in my life. You guys see a lot of jerks in your life. I'm like, that guy was just a jerk. It's not about that guy, right? But I let that impact me for like 2-3 days. I've never done that again. I mean, I will let things impact me, but I'll try to shorten the impact because I've got shit to do. So you're gonna come up against folks who are not gonna like you for whatever reason. You're gonna come up with folks who are going to be obstacles, and you're gonna come up with against folks or with folks who are gonna be well-intentioned, but they're not going to deliver, right? You just have to recognize those situations and get back to doing what you're doing. Thank you.
How's it going? I've got 2 questions. One's a follow-up. Does your company, Verasoni, work with smaller firms or bigger firms usually?
We do, yeah. We work across the board. I mean, I think we've got 3 fairly large, right? And then everybody else is a middle market firm, and then we do work with smaller companies.
Because one thing I see now on social media is I feel like bigger firms.
You feel like that?
Or I think.
You think that?
I think bigger firms and medium firms.
Yeah, I do that to my kids all the time. Like, you feel like that? Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
But I think medium and big firms kind of have social media down now. I feel like let's
You
say.
feel like that?
Jeez.
Exactly. This is what I mean. Right? But it's part of the culture now.
Yeah.
Right? And I can tell you where it started, but that'll be an offline conversation.
But local companies, I'm trying to catch myself now. Local companies, I feel like.
You feel like that?
I think that local companies don't have social media down to a T. You see on Instagram and stuff, you see advertisements from somewhere nearby, you're like, oh, that's terrible, that doesn't look good at all. Do you think that that's kind of the next sphere, where everything's going to go into, smaller companies advertising on social media? I feel like none of them do.
You feel like that again?
Jesus.
Yes, I know. So, I think whatever it takes to get in front of people, right? Because even bad advertising works. Consistency. You guys, watch those car commercials, right?
Which one? There's 20 of them.
Right, like the used cars guys, right? And you're like, oh, that's awful, but you don't forget it, right? You remember it, right? So even so the frequency of messaging is really, really important, right? And so we're human, and we're susceptible to that. And if you think that from politics all the way down to sports or whatever, you're not being programmed. I have some really cool stuff to sell you, right? This is all about making sure that everybody here is compliant one way or another, to business, to conformity, to whatever, right? So if you're a business, you want to build an audience, a community, a market. And however you do it, if you do it consistently, you're going to win. I remember being at a trade show in New York, and there's a dentist in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and he takes the Backup New Jersey Monthly every month. Now, the Backup New Jersey Monthly back then was like $15,000 a month, right? And it's not like a dentist thing. It would be like him drinking brandy, right? And it would be like him painting something. And I would imagine that if he was on Instagram, he would do that, right? So I said, Dr. Kirk, and I taught a class at Seton Hall at the time, like a marketing class, and I said, Dr. Kirkus, I want to talk to you about your ads. He's like, oh, I know what you think. I'm like, what? He goes, you think my ads suck, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, but I also know what you think. He goes, you think they work? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah. He goes, I've been in that magazine for like 20 years. I own that back cover. I get all the new patients. And artistically, it sucks. Like, I mean, but it doesn't, because it works.
It's a reaction.
Yeah. So, you guys, remember the Crazy Eddie commercials? You know what Crazy Eddie commercials are?
Please
Yeah.
refresh my memory.
Please, just Google Crazy Eddie
I'm
commercials,
scared, okay.
right? And you're gonna see that some guy yelling at you, right? It's insane. Just yelling at you to buy his crap,
And I would buy it.
right? And I bought it. He's yelling at you.
Oh,
Buy my stuff. It's July, right? Christmas, right? It's like, right?
Nobody beats the Wiz, too.
Right,
That was
nobody
another
beats
one.
the Wiz.
Remember that one?
Yeah, like nobody beats the Wiz. Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, that's awful. But it doesn't matter because the frequency is there.
Good question.
So,
Time for
What's
one
that?
more?
He turned out to be a crook.
oh, the Crazy Eddie guy. Yes, yeah.
He was
yeah.
crazy, as it turns out.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we have time for one more.
Yeah.
One more. If anybody's got one. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your
Oh,
time.
thank you.
This was